The river is thin and clear, a ribbon of cold, fast water drawn across a bed of dark stones. In the middle fork of the Boise River, where the current carves its relentless path through the Idaho landscape, the water moves in quick, decisive lines. On a bright morning, with the sun high and the air still, you can see it. A sudden flash, a shiver of light. It looks, for a fleeting moment, like a thin thread of pure gold suspended just beneath the surface. It moves, and then it stops. It hides behind a ripple, then reappears, a transient gleam in the rushing water. People in the small towns that dot the riverbanks have a name for it. They call it the tracer gold. It is a local legend, a quiet mystery whispered over coffee cups and across weathered porch railings. This glimmer is not a new phenomenon. It has been spoken of for generations, from parent to child, from old-timer to newcomer. The descriptions vary, but the core image remains the same, a brilliant, metallic line that dances in the river's flow, as elusive as a dream upon waking. It is a promise whispered by the water, a glint of the extraordinary in the everyday. Long ago, men came to this river. They came not to admire the scenery or to fish for trout, but with a singular, burning purpose. They arrived with pails and pans, their faces etched with the fatigue of long journeys and the fever of ambition. At first, they were quiet, solitary figures, deliberate as they staked their claims. Then, as their numbers grew, they became loud. The clang of metal on stone, the scrape of shovels, boisterous shouts of discovery and despair. They stood for hours in the frigid water, their backs bent, their eyes trained on the contents of their swirling pans. They looked for color, they looked for weight, they looked for gold. The first reliable stories of this rush date to the 1860s, when the nation was tearing itself apart and men sought fortune in the untamed West. They walked here by foot, worldly possessions in wagons or strapped to their backs, following rumors and hand-drawn maps that promised hills full of golden promise. The Boise Basin became a magnet. A few rough-hewn cabins multiplied into clusters of houses. Idaho City, Placerville. Miners carved paths into the hills. They built wooden sluices, long sloping troughs to let water separate heavy gold from lighter sand and gravel. The air, once only wind and water, now thudded with hammers and the grating of shovels. It was raw creation and brutal extraction, an indelible mark on the land. The river, a silent witness, took what men left behind. In winter it claimed pans. In exhaustion, small tins and coins slipped away from numb hands. It also kept what they lost. The legend of the tracer gold began not as a grand pronouncement, but as a series of small, disconnected rumors. An old man mentioned a streak of light in the water near the old bridge, a shimmer like a bright wire. The woman at the bakery confessed she had seen it too, a brilliant line darting past in the current. The ranger listened, offering sensible answers. Maybe mica, perhaps a thin ribbon of mylar. He knew people wanted a story more than a simple answer. The river became a passive archive. In deep pools, things with no business together settled: cookware, toys, tools, nets. Over decades, floods dislodged cups, low water revealed square nails, remains of a sluice washed away a century before. The river held these things in a cold, dark embrace, waiting for the right moment to reveal a piece of its long-held memory. And so the whispers accumulated, gaining a little more weight and a little more mystery with each retelling. One bright July, when the sun beat down on the valley and the river ran cool and inviting, a young woman named Mara came to its banks. She carried a small, well-worn green pack, a modern prospecting pan, and thick gloves. Mara was a librarian by trade. She loved old maps, faded notes, and the spidery handwriting in leather-bound diaries. She came not seeking wealth, but connection, lost gold, forgotten miners, tangible threads back into the past. She chose a confluence where the current eddied and slowed, a settling point for heavier materials. She took off her boots and waded into the shallows, a sudden, sharp shock against warm skin. Smooth stones shifted beneath her feet. Standing on a flat rock, she watched the flow. She was patient. And then she saw it. A thin, ephemeral line of light slid past, fast and graceful as a small fish. It was not a fish. It was a definite strip of metal, shining with the warm, mellow hue of old brass, unmistakably old. She reached with a small hand net. The current tugged. The strip slipped, tumbling and flashing as it vanished into a deeper channel. Mara didn't feel frustration, only a quiet thrill. She had not captured it, but she had seen it. It was real. The tracer gold was not just a story, a small, tangible piece of history waiting to be understood. Mara began to walk upstream, her eyes trained on the riverbed with a new intensity. A dark, heavy button, a faint anchor still visible. A shard of thick purple glass, a hallmark of pre-World War I manufacturing. A square-headed nail like a tiny misshapen hat, a relic from before mass production. A U.S. penny, Lincoln nearly a ghost, the date erased by the river's constant polishing. Each thing had a place in time, a human hand behind it, trembling with cold, gesturing in laughter, clenched in argument. The river, she realized, keeps the memory of touch. She brought the finds to the library, laying them out for all to see. Iron button, circa 1880. Bottle fragment, circa 1900. The objects told a mixed story. Gold rush relics beside later machine parts, a small circular brass ring like a lens holder. Then the new pattern appeared. Tiny brass tubes, thin and hollow, crimped and burned. They shone with a familiar golden hue. Mara did not recognize the tubes at first. So light, she nearly dismissed them as modern campsite debris. She brought one to the old park ranger. He turned it, brow furrowed, the peculiar burn at one end giving him pause. He said a single word. He explained that war and certain kinds of hunting leave little lights in their wake. The word changed everything. Tracer bullets are real munitions. A pyrotechnic charge in the base ignites at firing, burning bright in flight, leaving a visible trail for the shooter. Fired long ago, their fiery trail would have extinguished as they plunged into cold water. The impact and time could separate lead from brass. Light, hollow casings tumble for decades, burnished by the river until they shine with a deceptive golden luster, the tracer gold. A romantic mystery met a plausible modern explanation, and it fit the thin, moving line the legend described. But a single tracer round would not create a legend. How did so many casings end up here? The question sent Mara back to the archive. In a brittle edition from 1943, she found it. Land east of town temporarily closed for military training. Not a major base, a makeshift range. During World War II, the Army leased a field bordering the hills overlooking the river. Soldiers from Gowan Field practiced small arms, tested rounds, fired into earthen berms, and sometimes into the sky. For night training, they used tracer rounds. Shells fired upward fall back to earth, into woods, into fields, and into the river. The articles were brief, but the oldest residents remembered strange lights over the hills, the river seeming to catch them with a hiss. The range closed after the war. The Army moved on. The brass stayed. Brass composition matched mid-century military ammunition. Burn patterns matched tracer designs. The tracer gold was, in large part, the warm, polished color of old brass. Over decades, the river tumbled instruments of war until they shone like treasure. In fast water and Idaho sun, a sheen of brass became a legend. The town called it tracer gold, a joke that turned out astonishingly accurate. The legend was not easily replaced. The tracer tale added a layer, but older stories remained. A season of unusually low water revealed more of the bed. The river's real story was not a single bright thing, but a mosaic of small pieces. Near a sharp bend, a larger object lay half buried. With a groan of rusted metal, it opened. There were old keys on a ring, a small pocket watch, black and silver, its hands stopped at 4:10. Each piece alone wasn't gold. A brass casing, a rusted key, a broken watch. The tracer gold wasn't a single treasure, it was the composite color of worn brass and old light. Inside was not a fortune, but a small tin-plated chest, its corners green with corrosion, heavy, but not with gold. It held intensely personal items, beads, a photograph, a coin purse, and a letter wrapped in oilcloth. Written by a man to his brother, it spoke of a promise and a planned return. If I do not return by the first snows, keep the pan and the watch for yourself. Remember me when you see the light on the water. Read aloud in the library. The letter made the room breathe as one, a soft quickness in chests, a few tears, a little laughter. People felt closer. People now tell two stories. The old one, the river hides gold, and the truest, the river keeps memory. Both are bright. Both are worth listening to. Mara sat by the river as the sun began to set. In the current, a thin thread of light flashed by. She watched it go, her hand on cool stone. She did not try to catch it. She had seen enough. She learned the river keeps small things a very long time, that a town's treasure can be a forgotten letter, a broken watch, or a story shared between neighbors. What do you want it to be when you see it? A treasure? A clue? A small shared secret from a forgotten war? Or simply sunset on polished brass? The river will not tell you. It only gives you the gleam. It only asks you to lean a little closer, to look and to wonder. It asks you to choose how you believe.